Welcome, everybody, to Broadcast Team Alpha, where we bring you cutting-edge conversation while exploring the quantum possibilities. And we're doing it with one of our favorite guests tonight that Augie's going to tell you about. But before we get started, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you, Nancy, for the super chat. You're super chatting already. And thank you if we didn't get to recognize you on previous super chats. We're so grateful. And, this show is a labor of love for us. And it helps defray some of the costs of production. So thank you so much for that. I want to invite you to a couple of things. I want to invite you to the YouTube membership group. Mac is going to put the link in the chat. You get to come backstage, so to speak, with us, and you get the perks of membership. This week, we're having Jenny Cousins come on and give readings for the members that are in our YouTube membership group. There are videos that only you will see, and a lot of the other videos that eventually will be shared with the public, you get first peek at them. Other than having Jenny come on, which she's going to do regularly, Augie and I are going to have private Zooms where you guys can come and ask questions and tell us what you love about Broadcast Team Alpha. Tell us what you'd like to see. We can kind of get up close and personal and talk about things. So please consider joining that group. And we would also like to invite you to the Mastermind group. It's like a spiritual think tank. We meet on Sunday afternoon, and we go on a beautiful guided imagery meditation where we relax the body, we relax the brain waves, and we put out into the creative realm, into the quantum realm, the things that we desire for the world, right? And sometimes for each other. If people have a health challenge going on, we mastermind for that. Of course, all of the things that are going on in the world, we're always putting out the energy for peace and for awakening and for maybe a little bit of an expedited disclosure. Let's get on with it. Just beneficence and benevolence overflows during our meetings when, we imagine all of the animals of the world feeling safe and being taken care of, as well as the creatures in the sea. And we bring it all together in a beautiful guided imagery. If you'd like to join us, if that sounds good to you, you can come and put your toe in the pond, see if you like it. You can send an email to mastermindconnection@gmail.com. Augie will send you the link. You can come hang out with us for a Sunday, and if you like it, just keep coming back. So thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. Augie, will you please tell us about our guest?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we have, this is going to be fun. We have Mary Joyce with us again. She is returning to Broadcast Team Alpha. And she is a real researcher, a digger that has gotten behind the curtain and found a lot of the answers to the things that we want to know about. And she's written several books on it. I think it is 5 now. And some of her books got something that I love to see, and that is pictures. I love books with pictures in it. So that's something to consider. And I think the last one is Spy in the Sky, I think. Yeah, I think that's it. And there's some really interesting stuff uncovered there when it comes to Antarctica and places also. So go have a look at that. And I also want to tell you guys her website where she put a lot of the stuff that she finds. And because a lot of you like to surf the website while you are listening. And here it is, skyshipsovercashiers.com. Skyshipsovercashiers.com. And she's got a lot of pictures there. And the last one she put up was a phenomenal UFO sitting next to a mountain that, you got to see this. And she has also done a lot of research on Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the Yeti, the abdominal snowman, and I think there's another several names for this really tall, furry guy. And I would love to start out talking about that guy. Welcome to the show, Mary.
Welcome, Mary.
Thank you. It's always good to talk to you two.
Always good to have you. Thank you so much. Yeah,
I'm going to do something with the Bigfoot. I'm going to give you a story before it even gets on our website. I just finished doing an interview with a gal. Her name is Robin McRae, and she's had Bigfoot living on her land since she was a child.
Wow.
And she's learned how to interact with them and to communicate with them. And she's so good that Dr. Igor Burtsev with the International Scientific Conference of Hominology in Russia had her come over there when they were working to give evidence and proof that the Bigfoot or the Yeti are actually real. And so she's got some really good credentials behind her. But the article that I'm going to be putting up, I guess it'll be on the website by this coming Saturday, is about Bigfoot females who want to look pretty. Now, nobody thinks about that. And
wow.
And I don't know if this is just the female Bigfoot that live close to people so that they might be emulating what we do. I really do not know that one. But she has had so many neat experiences. For example, the female Bigfoot try to smell good and to look pretty. They will weave flowers into their hair. They'll weave feathers in their hair. Uh-huh. And one of the things she told me that was very surprising was that the Bigfoot actually can use fire. And she said that females will find a container, put water in it, and then put flowers in it and bring it to a boil. And then they splash that fragrant water on themselves so that they smell pretty. They will also go and break small branches off of trees. These would be, they almost look like combs, that would have a number of twigs on it, and they will use that to comb their hair.
Oh my goodness.
And one of the Bigfoot actually let Robin know that she would like a red ribbon for her hair and asked Robin to leave one out for her. And another occasion, one of them, she said, her had such long hair. She compared it to some character from the Addams Family, and I don't know how many people are familiar with that old.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's a character on there that looks like it's nothing but hair, and they call it Cousin It, ITT. Yes. Mm-hmm. And she said it looked a lot like this character in the TV show, and the hair was immaculate. It was shiny, it was clean, and it was combed and smooth, and you just don't expect to hear stories like this about the Bigfoot. I was surprised by some of that myself.
What part of the world are we talking about with this? It makes it kind of endears me to them, right? Endears them to me. It's cute.
Right, and that's something I've done with my book. My book focuses on the human nice side of Bigfoot. They're not all creepy monsters in the woods. And for some reason, there's too many people out there that want to focus on, the monster kind of image. Let me give you one more story that's going to be in this article by Saturday. She said one day her youngest daughter was out under a tree in their front yard playing with their Barbie dolls. And she had a brush. And I guess only parents would know about this, but there's a Finding Nemo brush. So when you brush it, the fish swims on the back of the brush. But anyhow, it was getting late, and her daughter brought her Barbies back into the house, and she forgot the brush under the tree. And her mother said, well, we'll get it in the morning. Well, Robin took her kids to school, and when she came back, she walked in the front door instead of the back door, and there on the porch was this Finding Nemo hairbrush. But it was broken in half. And she asked the Bigfoot, what happened? What's going on here? And they said that one of the females had used it to brush her hair, and indeed there was long reddish brown hair tangled in the bristles, and that she didn't mean to break it, but she broke the brush. She probably hit a real hard knot in her hair or something, but it wasn't intentionally broken. So that story with photos will be up on the website, Skyships Over Cashers, by Saturday.
Wow, fascinating. Fascinating. My goodness.
Phenomenal.
And Rob, they're in my book, Bigfoot Beyond the Footprints. There are 2 other stories that I've gotten from Robin, and I'll briefly share one of those with you.
Please do.
Let me answer your question. Robin lives in the countryside in South Carolina.
Okay. Wow.
Anyhow, they had a pony, and the pony was always disappearing. And they put a fence up, and the pony would still get out. And then she eventually got a boat rope that was about 250 feet long, so that the pony could walk around and not get loose. Well, every morning she would get up, the pony would be untied and gone, and she would find the pony out in the woods, and the Bigfoot were taking the pony, and they would actually drag his feed bowl and his water bowl out to where they were in the woods. And here's the funny part. One day, she looked on the back of the pony, and there were small, muddy butt prints. The Bigfoot were taking their kids for rides on the pony.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, if that doesn't sound human, I don't know what.
Very human.
Yeah. So
fascinating.
They must be a lot more intelligent than what people give them credit for,
and much kinder. You know, the Native Americans have always said that they regarded the Bigfoot as a type of people. They regarded them as a people or as a clan. And the more I learn about Bigfoot, the more I totally agree with the Indian perspective on that.
So in the chat room, Faith Inspired Transformation, that's her name, said, just a thought, but with our timeline coming to full circle, is Bigfoot possibly what we call a caveman in a new timeline? Are they human from our million years ago?
Let me give you the genetics that I'm aware of with this. And this is based on the research of Dr. Melba Ketchum. And she got lots and lots of samples from Bigfoot and had them analyzed. And she actually caused a great deal of controversy. And she received a lot of hate from other scientists who said, you know, she can't be right. And her research showed that the Bigfoot, the female side of the Bigfoot, or the maternal side, is human. The father side is some unknown species. And since she did that, and since she took a lot of personal abuse for being so bold in what she said, there have been other scientists who have ultimately come around to say that she was accurate. The reason it's hard to find the paternal DNA on any Bigfoot sample is because it's only in the nuclear DNA. That means if you get a hair sample, the strand of hair will just show up as female. You have to get the root also, where the nuclear DNA is, and that's where the unusual characteristics of the Bigfoot show up.
Wow, interesting. There's a lot of other discussion going on right now in the ufology community about hybrids and women having been impregnated by star beings, and so there's a lot of that kind of coming to light right now, and I think it's fascinating that that's kind of what we're talking about here with Bigfoot. That's amazing.
Well, the more I learn about all of these different related fields, is that we seem to be on a planet where there's a whole lot of experimentation going on. And I think there's been a lot of genetic manipulation often for good, maybe not always for good. But anyhow, I think that's a reality on this planet.
I can't wait to hear more.
Sounds to me too. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I was done.
Oh, it kind of sounds like I've been looking into it too a little bit and reading some of your stuff, and Bigfoot may have been here all the way back to maybe before we came.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Now, some of these things are hard to prove. The things I've been telling you aren't difficult to get testimony on. But when you go back into prehistory, where none of us existed, it's a little harder to prove. But there's indications that might be the case.
Yeah. And I've seen also in cave paintings, when you see those really huge, big figures that is painted on the wall there, most people say, oh, that's aliens. Yeah, but is it? It could very well be Bigfoot.
That's a possibility. That's a real possibility. And I guess depending on how skilled the artist was, so.
Good point. Good point. So can you talk about the variations of the under the Bigfoot umbrella?
Tonight, for some reason, I'm quoting Robin a lot. First of all, she said that she's been going on podcasts and shows a lot now. She didn't used to do that. She said the Bigfoot want people to know that they're not monsters, and they want her to share information that shows that they're compassionate beings. And she has to get permission from them to be on any of their shows. And I have had permission to write their stories in my books and on the website, but she wouldn't do it unless they got their permission. So they're carefully. Well, I don't blame them. You know, they don't want her to go on a show that's just going to poo-poo it or, dismiss it or, whatever. So I guess it's time, and they want people to know the good side of them.
So how did she bridge the gap into communication with them?
Well, kids so often, if she started out as a child, which she did, children interact with beings very easily. And so if you start very young with them on your land, then the growth and the transition isn't so difficult to understand.
Mm-hmm. True. Very true.
And we've done our own experiments here in the mountains of North Carolina, mainly because we were just plain curious. And we did a food experiment, and we just wanted to see what kind of foods they liked. And so in the book, I have a picture, a whole bunch of them on a chart with different fruits and vegetables and stuff on it. And then it's like a guessing game. Which one do you think they don't like? Yeah. And I can tell you right now, they're a little bit like human children. They love fruits. However, they don't like an orange. Go figure. Maybe it's just too bitter or sour. I don't know. And they like the fruit and the nuts over the vegetables. And they will eat some of the vegetables, but one of the vegetables we put out, they actually spit it out. And it was asparagus. And there's a lot of humans that don't like asparagus either.
I was thinking Brussels sprouts, but okay.
Yeah, well, that's another one. It takes a lot of seasoning and butter and before anybody wants to eat them. But there was an experiment even in the containers where we would put the food. We found a place that was a regular path that the Bigfoot would take. It was in the mountain laurels where, behind it, there's a mountain that goes straight up like this, very rocky. And that's where we would place these containers with the food to see what they liked. And if the container had a handle on it, they would tip it over and take things out. But when we put a basket out there without a handle, they took the basket down the road with them. I'm suspecting that they have had a bad experience with traps or something because they weren't going to put their hand in the container. Mm-hmm. And they had no problem with the one that had no handle on it.
Good point.
Yeah, somebody's learned the hard way.
Yeah, bless their hearts.
And then I'll jump to one of the most complete Bigfoot stories, which was in the book, happened back in 2015, and I've never had a story that's turned out any more interesting than that one. And it's called The Valley of the Bigfoot. And what it is to get there, you take a dirt road, and then you go down about a mile into a valley. So there's like mountains on both sides, like steep mountains. There's a creek and a single lane road that follows the creek. When you get to the end of this, which is about a mile or at least a mile, it opens up into a bowl-shaped valley. And there's a small house, a big house, a barn, and a pond. And the woman who lived there had Bigfoot on her land. And the only reason that I even began to learn about her story was that she confided in her hairdresser what was going on. It took the hairdresser a long time before she could convince this woman, who we call Samantha, to tell her story to us for the website. And I think it was months before she finally opened up with us. And the way her story happened was suddenly the Bigfoot started causing trouble on their land. So this story goes from scary to beautiful. And they would get on the vehicles. Their muddy handprints would be all over the vehicles. At one point, they even got in the vehicle and started it, though it didn't go anywhere. It wasn't in gear. And each time they did something like that, it's like they upped their game. So the next thing that happened was they tried to get into the little house. And I have pictures in the book of this valley, these buildings, and detailed pictures of their handprints, muddy handprints on the door, trying to get in the house. They eventually got in the house one time when the woman had gone to town and she had left the clothes dryer running. This fascinated them. And apparently they were watching the clothes twirl in the dryer, and their handprints were on that. Well, then they upped the game again. The woman, who was a single mother with 3 older children, moved to the big house, which her parents once lived in. And then it started there. And again, we have the evidence of them breaking in. But it really gets interesting once they get in the house. And the woman eventually moved out because they were so frightened. And when she would go to check on her land, she'd bring a bodyguard with her with a gun. This is how scared she was. And each time they come back to the house, they would find something else going on in the house. And in the children's bedroom, and again, her children weren't toddlers, weren't little tiny ones. These Bigfoot had started to draw on the wall, and we know it was the Bigfoot children because all the drawings were done below the light switches. And the Bigfoot, the adults, wouldn't have crouched down that low to do these drawings. And you could see the evolution of their scribbles on the wall. Now, some of the stuff that the big guys must have done was they explored the bathroom, tore the toilet up, and everybody was very grateful. They didn't know what it was for, though I guess it would have made a great DNA sample.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Anyhow, so this is the kind of thing that was going on. And I got to see all this and take pictures of these things that I'm telling you about. And one day, they figured out what had happened. They had somebody out there repairing the dam that created the pond. In other words, the creek that flows into this valley, they dammed it up to create a pond. The man was out there with a jackhammer, and he went down into, he went right through the bedrock, I guess, or into the bedrock, and all the water drained out that hole that he had just drilled. They ultimately found out that water went down into the cave that these Bigfoot were living in, and they were really, really pissed. And that's why they were causing such destruction in the homes of the humans, because the Bigfoot had been there for a long time, and this kind of thing had not happened. So once that was realized, the woman made it clear, along with another person who helped her out, that they never intended to do this.
Aw.
And the Bigfoot forgave them because they found what I would call a handmade basket. It was actually it looked a little bit like burlap, and it had some shiny coins in it and a few other things. I'm old things. They didn't really look like our kind of coins, and left it at the front door. And there was no problem after that. Once the Bigfoot understood that it wasn't intended. So they went from being scared to death and having a bodyguard with a gun to getting this peace offering.
Wow.
I think that makes a great story.
It does make a good story. And the fact that they have the heart, right? The heart.
To understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the two of you are into meditation and into generating good energy on the planet.
Yeah.
And I just kind of figured you'd like the kind of thing that I've done in this book. And this is the book. And just real quickly flip through this. You can see, let's see here. You can just see that there's pictures throughout the book. It's not just words. As Hoggy said, I can't do things just words. For some reason, I find that boring.
Yeah. You mentioned that they had to put a basket with something like coins in it. Do you have a picture of those coins? Have you seen what
in the book? They're in the book.
Yeah. These guys don't use money, do they?
No. They're things they don't look like our coins. They look like things that have been squished or, they're round. There's 1, 2, 3 of them that are round, and another one, I don't know what it looks like. But I think it's the shiny objects they probably have just found as they've been roaming through the woods.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to be able to see it very well, but that's a picture of the basket.
Aw.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Wow. Boy, that's some interesting stuff in that book.
Very interesting. Tell us again where people can get your book, please.
All of my books are on Amazon.
Perfect.
And that one that I'm talking about so much right now is called Bigfoot Beyond the Footprints.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Where do you think the greatest number of Bigfoots? I don't even know how to make it a plural.
It's like the word moose. It's used plural.
Okay,
and so
good.
Sometimes when I'm writing, I'll say the Bigfoot when I'm trying to indicate, a group of them. Wonderful. But it's like the word moose.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Where is the greatest number of them? I mean, do they congregate in one area more than another? Or do we know?
We hear more Bigfoot stories out in the Western Rockies. Probably because it's more rugged, more remote, and easier to be away from people. We have them here in the mountains of North Carolina, but they're not that far away from humans, and it's harder for them to survive. So there are more stories from the far west. Mm-hmm. But there's also Bigfoot in Florida, and in that state, they're known as the swamp apes. And because they generally live in the swamp. On the website somewhere, I've got one of the videos that looks truly, truly authentic. And there was a man who was kayaking. He was somewhere in a natural park northeast of Tampa. And he saw something moving in the swamp where he was paddling. He had a camera with him. And you can see in this video the Bigfoot walking through the swamp. You can see the water moving. You can see it catch a snake to eat. So it caught him, catching his lunch in the swamp. So,
wow. Sushi.
Ish. With a big emphasis on the ish.
Yeah. My goodness. Let me just see if there's any. So Linda said tokens and gifts. If the females like pretty things, are they using them as gifts? That's what I was thinking of, the flattened coins. And when I was a little kid, we used to go and put pennies on the railroad track.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a couple like this that look a little bit that way. like a train ran over them and smashed them.
Very interesting. So interesting. I love it. I'm going to have to read your book.
Well, it's an uplifting book.
I love it. Adrian said they are here in Connecticut. She's had 4 varied experiences. Wow. See, it's not that.
Go ahead and let her tell one of her stories.
Yeah, if you want to write it in the chat, Adrian, it might be too much.
She can't talk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So fascinating.
I can remember back. I remember back when I was doing the TV shows in Tucson, I had a guest on probably around 2004, 2005. It was in the later shows. He talking about Bigfoot, and he showed me a document where the United States Army up in Washington State, they had an official document saying, yeah, we know Bigfoot is real and he is protected. I think it's Oregon or one of the states up there where they have protected Bigfoot.
I can't be specific on this, but I know one of the states out there has a law that you will be punished in some way if you kill a Bigfoot. I do know that.
Yeah.
And by contrast, in another state, we have them where they're, encouraging people to hunt them. So we have the extremes.
Yeah, they consider them animal, which they're far from. And there is stories also, or actually 2 of them that I know of, where people say, date back quite a while, but they say, yeah, we shot one. And they had a picture of it. But, pictures, it could be just about anything these days. But there is a reason why they avoid us.
Because, I think I want to avoid us. Some of the stuff I see going on, I don't want anything to do with some of these people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're not very nice people.
I have never shared this story before, but in fact, I just learned it when I was recently talking with Robin McRae, who seems to be the center of my conversation tonight. And she said once she started going on shows and podcasts, that these Bigfoot hunters began to, come at her. They wanted to do things like lock her up in a cage and see if the Bigfoot would come and save her. They wanted to do several things to her with the idea, would this lure the Bigfoot to come and protect her? Well, who wants to have those kind of people following you around?
Seriously.
It's just ridiculous.
If they have the capacity for forgiveness, I would imagine that they must have such a fine-tuned sensitivity to energy and the vibration of, good people and bad people, right?
Right.
Yeah.
These shows, I don't know if they're still on or not. The ones chasing Bigfoot or finding Bigfoot, is that still on the air? Do you have any idea?
I don't know. I'm not
Anyhow,
sure.
I've seen some episodes and then I just didn't want to see them anymore. But the Bigfoot, as you say, they can hear and feel us coming and know our intentions before we even know they're around. So the chances of these people trying to hunt them and get them is very, very small.
That makes me happy, actually. It really does. Make me happy.
There's several kinds of them too. Yeah, some of them are, at least from the pictures, look to be maybe around 6 foot, some 9 foot. But there's also stories of some of them that is twice our height, like maybe 12 foot tall.
Those are, you don't hear that too much. Most the tallest ones usually are about 10 feet. It's real common, 8 and 9 feet. And oftentimes people will see the younger ones because, as with humans, it's the teenagers that get out and do the daring things. It's the teenagers who haven't learned the lessons of life. And so a lot of times you will run into the teenagers who have not reached their full height, but, are just being entirely too careless.
Reckless, right?
Reckless. Yeah, that's the word for it.
Yeah.
So Adrian, who is in Connecticut, said, besides the tree knocking, the smell of rotten meat and garbage was there. It was intense. My dog alerted me that my door that exists to the garage alerted her to the door. She opened the door, and about 10 feet from her, a Bigfoot dematerialized.
And that's been something that has really, I don't know. I've kept that off to the side. I haven't come down, I believe it or I don't believe it. So then this week when I was talking to Robin, the star of the show again tonight, she said she has seen them dematerialize right in front of her, but they are so comfortable around her on their land that they're not cloaked when she's around. But she has seen them dematerialize. And because Robin has been so accurate about so many things, I certainly am more inclined to think that they might have that capacity.
Mm-hmm. She said that it was right in front of me, and it looked similar to predator, like water static. I'm not sure what that is, but thank you, Adrian, for sharing that. Thank you. Interesting. She said the one I saw was about 7 feet tall and not barrel chested, more on the slim side. Maybe it was an adolescent, right?
There's also variation, just like we have with humans. Just remember, half of their DNA is human. So their faces will go from white to black and brown and different shades in between. The facial features will vary. They don't all look the same in the face. The hair color, as most people know if they're into it at all, will vary, though the reddish brown seems to be more common. So there's a lot of variations, just like there is with us humans.
Interesting. Yeah. So with the ribbon, I mean, can we assume maybe did she want to get her hair off of her face, or maybe
the ribbon indicates she wanted to be pretty because she wanted a red ribbon. Okay,
that's so cute. That's so adorable.
Yeah. Another time, Robin saw a Bigfoot, and at first she thought it was carrying a baby on its shoulders. It looked like the head of the baby was behind her, and then when she got really close, this particular female had taken her hair and created some kind of a bun on top of her head. And
a messy bun.
so it was a hairdo.
Aw, that's adorable. That's so cute. I love that.
That's all right.
I love it.
Yeah,
I would welcome. You would welcome them, right? I would. If I want to meet them face to face, I want to meet on a field where we can gradually come toward each other. Yeah. If I just suddenly looked out my door and there was one standing there, of course, even my mother, if she was just standing there, I wasn't expecting it, would startle me. Sure. I don't know how I would react instantly. I really don't.
Right.
I don't have a gun, so I'm not going to shoot it. But I mean, I know it would startle me.
Of course. Especially, when you're used to your house and the land around your house, and, you're accustomed to the comings and the goings. And then all of a sudden there's something big and unusual. No matter how well-meaning they are, it would be frightening.
Yeah, that's why I like the gradual approach. Be over there on that side, and we will gently approach each other.
We need a Bigfoot dating site or something.
There you go. I don't know how far that idea's going to fly, but anyhow, I have in the past done my own trekking around some of these places, and there is a man who's lived here in the mountains all of his life. I think he was probably in his 40s when he took me out on his land, and to get to his property, which is at the top of a mountain ridge, you take a single gravel road. And then we got out of his car, and he had a machete, not for protection, but because there were places along the way that he needed to cut so that we could walk. He wanted to take me to a Bigfoot cave. And as we began to walk into the woods, he's in the lead and I'm following him, which you would expect. And we heard this bird sound that didn't sound quite like a bird. And then off in the distance where we were headed, there was a similar, almost like mechanical kind of bird answering it. And then everything got silent. And right there where I was, when we heard the first bird sound, I could see 2 Bigfoot prints on the incline to my left. Wow. And then when we finally got to the cave, it was pretty good size. It was flat top like this, I'm guessing, well, anyhow, like this, maybe 10 feet by 5 feet or 8 feet by 5 feet. And then it was real dark in there, and you could not see the back of the cave. Being a slight chicken, I did not want to venture into the cave. I took pictures of it. Pictures are in the book, but even it's not just the Bigfoot you have to be afraid of. There's panthers and all bears and all sorts of things. I just didn't want to go and bother. Exactly. But the man hunted in that. He doesn't hunt Bigfoot. But he hunts in that area, and so he knew that this was one of their big regular places to take shelter.
Interesting. Are there any in West Virginia? Do we have any sightings in West Virginia? This would be a good place for them, you know.
I would expect that there would be. I'm sure that there are. I've not done any stories on Bigfoot in Virginia. I don't think I have, anyhow. But the lady that you were quoting, who gave you a little bit of her story,
Adrian.
What's her name?
Adrian.
Adrian. I'll talk to her. Adrian, if you ever want to share that story, go to the website skyshipsovercachers.com, and there's a way to report a sighting. You can send it to me, and I'll give you the byline. And if you want to share that story, we'd be happy to.
Interesting.
Another thing. Go ahead, Mary.
Oh, no. I said interesting.
Another thing that is kind of puzzling, actually, is that we know there is quite a few of them. They're all over the place. Every country, well, I don't know about every country, but many countries around the world. And you hardly ever find someone in the woods that have died. Evidently, they must, when that time comes, they must know, just kind of like the African elephant. They never died, and they have their own place where they go to terminate their life. Maybe there's something similar here. They know when the time's coming, and they go. So we don't find them.
Mm-hmm. Some of the people I've talked to say that they bury their own. We live in an area where there's a lot of caves. Some of these people say that they're buried in the caves. Some people recognizing that they might be multidimensional to some degree. Maybe they just poof and disappear. I don't know. It sounds like a good way to go. But I don't have any absolute answers on that one.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
What kind of stories have you read about the yeti or the abdominal snowman in the Himalayas and other places in the world?
I haven't talked about this in a long time, though it's in the book. What's his first name? Stewart, the actor from a long time ago. Anyhow, he got involved with transporting a yeti finger out of, God, the story is not sticking with me, maybe Tibet or someplace like that. Jimmy Stewart is the one. He and his wife were the ones who smuggled out this finger. And they had somehow, it seems like they were in a monastery where they preserved this Bigfoot, and somebody took the finger. It wasn't Stewart, it was somebody else, and replaced it with something else so it wouldn't look like it was missed. And then Jimmy Stewart was used to transport it out of the country. So that story's in the book, and obviously my book remembers things better than I do.
Aw, it's okay. That's okay. Aw.
Yeah, they adapt themselves to the environment because in the mountains of Himalaya, they get cold in the winter, and you have a lot of snow, probably close to 9 months out of the year sometimes. So they turn white.
That would be good camouflage. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of animals that do that. Sometimes they will just be white in the wintertime. And of course, the polar bears are that color all the time. So it would make some kind of sense.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Believe it or not, there apparently have also been giants in this part of the mountains. At Western Carolina University, they supposedly had two giant skeletons in their forensic storage area. I learned this from some of the graduates of the anthropology department. And the giants had 6 toes on each foot, which I've read similar things in other places, but this was right here where we're located. And then I found out later that those skeletons and the little people skeletons, which is another topic that we can talk about some other time, had been sent off to the Smithsonian. I found this very regrettable because so many giant skeletons have been found all over the country, records of it going back into the 1800s, and they've been shipped off or taken to the Smithsonian, and we never see them again. Hopefully they don't destroy them. They just keep them in a out-of-sight storage area. But the Smithsonian has been, they have deliberately tried to control the knowledge that we have about our history, and that's regrettable. Because as an institution, they've done a lot of good things have been done, but hiding some of our history is not the right thing to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. But I think we did have a conversation once about the little people. Because
Did we? Okay.
Yeah, I think you told us about a man in North Carolina where you live that would go out and maybe put food out for them. Was that you? Was that a conversation?
Yep, it sounds like me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that story that you were referring to, it was a man who had been a deputy sheriff someplace in Florida. He got cancer and he came up to the mountains and he got some property out in the Pisgah Forest. And he lived, the mountain went up like this and his land was here, and then there was a creek. And he was, for his health reasons, he was doing organic gardening. And anyhow, one day he's sitting on his porch and he's up here and looking down, and there's the creek. And the first time he heard sounds like children splashing in the water. And he was very puzzled by it because that was an old logging road and there weren't any kids around. He could not explain what that was. Then another time he's on the porch and he sees a family of Bigfoot crossing the road. He had a light by where his garage was. And so it was a mother, a father, and 2 of their children. The children were the ones that were playing in the stream.
Oh my goodness.
The male Bigfoot would come down when this gentleman was doing his gardening, and they communicated with each other telepathically. And the man would share that they wouldn't raid his garden, but the man would share things from his garden with this Bigfoot family that lived up on this mountain that went straight up behind him where no humans lived at all. So that sounds like the remnants of that story that you were trying to recall.
I love that. I love that story. Aw. Very sweet. Very, very sweet.
By the way, we were talking earlier about how the teenage Bigfoot are the ones the most likely to be seen and cause mischief. The same is true with the little people. And one of the men that I interviewed, and again, it's in my book, Cherokee Little People Were Real. He had like 200 acres of land in eastern Tennessee on bluffs overlooking a river and lots of forest land. And he and his family for generations had lived there. They have the Uchi Indian in their bloodstream, though he looks totally like a white man. And But I did some research, and the Uchi Indians look like they may have originated ages ago from Europe, because they weren't like any other tribe, and they look like white people. But anyhow, his father, more than he, could communicate with the little people, and this man had experiences where he would be walking in the woods, and suddenly, try to imagine this, suddenly one of those teenage Bigfoots flipped down right in front of his face. It'd been like on a branch and then flipped down like this.
Oh my goodness.
So when I talk about teenagers being mischievous, that's another example from a different species.
Wow. That's kind of funny. Scary.
It is.
Startling.
Well, it's startling. That's the right word, startling.
Aw. Yeah, I
remember growing up back in Norway on the farm back there. There were older people when I was, just little. There were older people that had several really amazing stories about the little people. They call them trolls, And these people, they made their own clothing. They have hats on, and they just looked like folks, only that they were really short, maybe something like about 1.5 to 2 feet tall.
Well, when we say the little people, little people come in different sizes, which is what you're telling. The Cherokee little people here in North Carolina are typically 3.5 feet tall. But then I did a story for the website at one point about the Pedro man. And back in, I think it was 1932, there were gold miners who found this little mummy. And it had been authenticated by 2 universities that it was real. And it was only 14 inches tall. So we have, and then I've never really gotten into fairies in any big way, or I've never really investigated that. But this mummy that's only 14 inches, the characters you're talking about that you said, were 2.5 feet tall? And then the Cherokee little people become giants compared to those two.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And on our website, Nori, we have a picture of a shoe that was found in Ireland. Mm-hmm. The only thing is that the shoe is about 2 inches long. And it had laces in it, and it looks really, well, it was worn, but it looks like a really nice shoe. No specific heel on it, but kind of like a moccasin. There you go, more like a moccasin. But it was 2 inches, not even that, it was just maybe 1.5 inches long. It was found in Ireland.
The reporter in me is going to come out here now. Well, wouldn't that perhaps have just been a baby shoe?
Right.
Yeah, it's well.
You got to remember, I was a newspaper editor for a bunch of years, and the skeptical part of me still exists, and that's the first question that came to mind. Would that have been an ancient baby shoe? You just don't know. That doesn't mean I don't believe there's little people, because I do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you'll also find this interesting. The book that I titled was called Cherokee Little People Were Real. If I were to rewrite that book, it would have a different title, because after I put that book out there, people found out I wasn't going to laugh at them. And I began to find out that there are still little people very much alive here in the mountains of North Carolina. Especially like on the Cherokee Indian Reservation in the wilder parts. And one day I got a call from some friends that live, I think, of like 2 ridges away from where I lived. And they had been debating contacting me because their webcam had picked up what appeared to be a little person in the woods. So years after I did all this research, finally got a picture that might very well be a little person. So
amazing. Just going back to the bigger people right now, Nancy, our moderator, said, do you know of Dr. Sala and the Anunnaki giants that are being woken up right now? Do you know about that?
I know a little bit. I know who Dr. Sala is. I don't know what to say about them. I really don't.
I don't know.
And you have to be really careful. All researchers do. And he's written about a lot of people, and he's written about these people who have talked about going to Mars for 20 years and then coming back. And there's been a court case going on, and one of those people that he wrote about was making it up. So you just have to take everything with a grain of salt. Everything.
Yeah.
Especially right now, there's so much like frenzy going on right now, and everybody is a descendant of, Pleiades, and I'm this, and I'm taking everything with a grain of salt, and I'm reserving conclusion. I'm just preserving it.
You just have to. You can't say that's what I have to do about a lot of topics. And for some reason, I'm just remembering back a bunch of years ago, everybody thought they were Nefertiti, and there were Nefertiti necklaces, and everybody was thinking they were a famous royalty. Some of this may be a little bit baddish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'm keeping the salt shaker really close by.
Yes, salt shaker. All right, one salt shaker over here.
Mm-hmm. Love it. I love it.
Oh, boy.
We only have about 4 minutes left. So will you tell people how they can get in touch with you, Mary, if they want to send you a story again? Or
okay. The website is skyshipsovercashers.com. Sky, ships, over, we can all spell those words. Cashers is spelled just like a cashier at the grocery store. So even the books, the things I find that end up being in a book, mostly have come from the research I've done for the website, or much of it has. On the home page of skyshipsovercashers.com, there at the very top on the home page, there is a way to let us know about a sighting, and that can be anything, but there's contact information there. And all of the books that I've done are available on Amazon, and I'll real quickly go through the titles. The one we've been talking about tonight is Bigfoot Beyond the Footprints. We've touched briefly on Cherokee Little People Were Real. There was a mention for the most recent book, which is Spy in the Sky is the short title. And it's about it's discoveries I've made using Google Earth on Mars, on the moon, around the sun, in deep space, under the ocean, and in Antarctica. And it's stuff that people don't know about for the most part. And there's visual evidence there. And I give you the coordinates so anybody can take those coordinates and use Google Earth and find these things for themselves. I did that intentionally because there's too many people doing Photoshop madness. And when people can find things for themselves, then that really, really helps. Yeah. But it's packed with information people don't know. Also did another book, Underground Bases Hidden in North Carolina Mountains. Whatever else I've written, I'm going blank on. But anyhow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know in that Spy in the Sky, I think is where you talk about what's in Antarctica, because your people that think they control your life, they put a white sheet over a big part of Africa so that you can't see what's underneath it, but you were able to find something. It looks
what happened over and over again, I would find certain things and post them on the website, and within a day or two, they would be wiped out, airbrushed out. And I found an entrance into Antarctica that was 100 feet high and about 300 feet across. I think it was the day after I posted that. It looked like somebody had poured India ink on it. And then the next step, I backed up and looked at it where I could see the two entrances. And suddenly, very briefly, it said Hollow Earth Entrance 1, Hollow Earth Entrance 2. And then the next part of the cover-up was it was just turned into a sheet of ice, and you would never guess that it was there. There's a key on your keyboard called print screen. Use that. If you find something extraordinary, hit it. Because if I hadn't done that, I couldn't show people the before and after pictures in the book.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's good. Yeah, and it appears like there's actually 5 cities now that is coming out from underneath the ice, and that dates back some 30 million years.
Let me squeeze this in real quickly.
Yeah.
That planet or that continent's been covered in ice for 34 million years. So these cities that are showing up in the melting ice, which we just discovered in September of 2021, they're the oldest remnants of any civilization in the entire planet. The Great Pyramid is only 5,000 years old, or less than 5,000 years old.
Yeah.
34 million is a really long time ago. So
Seriously.
I think we filled the time here.
We did.
Enjoyed talking to both of you. Thank you for listening so well.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Oh,
it was wonderful.
Wonderful, yes.
You're a wealth of information. It was lovely talking with you. Thank you so much. Augie, you want to take us out? It's 9:00.
Yeah, then, yes, and we would, maybe we can get you back again because there is more to talk about, isn't it?
We can always talk about something else. You're right.
Yes, yeah. And here's my favorite question again. Excuse me. If you could talk to the whole world and the world is listening, what would you tell them, Mary?
I don't know. I think I may have answered this question for you once before. I'm not sure. We need to be kind to each other. We need to strive for peace. We need to quit having all these divisions that we have. There is too much hate. The soul of each person is unique. It doesn't matter how they're packaged. And that the soul people need to see the soul and not the casing for it.
I love that.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest divisions is between government and the people. That needs to go away.
Peace everywhere.
Peace.
Thank you very much for being with us.
All right. I enjoyed it. You take care.
You take care too. Thank you so much.